Oh, I do it.
Oh, you do that, okay.
Ms. Engelbretson,
Here.
Mr. Kunkel,
Here.
Mr. Otto,
Here.
Mr. Poss,
Here.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Okay. That's everybody, so there's definitely a quorum. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we would add one item to new business, which would be a discussion to ask staff to consider combining their Urbana Design Review Board and their Urbana OMR Board into a single board.
Okay. Do we, can we just adapt, as chair, I can just adapt that as another item on the, we'll do that after, as item number 3. The next item is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, which was December 15th, 2011. Do I have a motion to?
I move approval of the minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Minutes are adopted as written. Number 4 is communication.
We just handed out the design review board's little flyer that explains the board's duties. And for most other boards, it has the meeting schedule. But since this board only has one official meeting per year, it does not have that.
Any other communications?
No.
Okay. Now, this is the good part, audience participation. Okay, that's our audience participation. Continuation of public hearings, we don't have any public hearings that need any continuation. I don't believe we have any old business. Okay. New business, we have 3 items now. First is election of a chairperson for, AY 2015, but that's my other job, for the year 2015. Do we have any nominations?
I would move that you remain as chairman,
Okay.
Jeffrey Poss.
Any other nominations? Do we have a second for that? Vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I will graciously accept that. Second item is the discussion of the amendment to the official bylaws. Do we need any background on that, or?
Yes, sir. Just a quick update. We were asked by the city attorneys to update bylaws for all of the boards and commissions. And that was to incorporate some changes regarding Open Meetings Act interpretations. So we have incorporated those changes into section, let's see, Article 5, number 5, which basically gives the chair the ability to limit public input if there's a lot of people attending. And it also states that public input shall be limited to topics that are germane, and no member of the board is obligated to respond to public input. And then we had a couple other changes just to match our current practice with this board. To clarify, there's one official meeting per year in January. Other meetings will be called as needed. And then there was a change to Article 5, number 1, to make the order of business consistent with our other boards and commissions. And just to let you know, in accordance with Article 9 of the bylaws, the board may not vote on these at the meeting. They are first presented. So you will need to call another meeting to adopt these perhaps next month.
Is there a time period between receiving the changes and being able to adapt the changes?
No, there's no minimum or maximum.
Okay. Are there any questions on the bylaw changes? Okay, well, since we can't vote on those, perhaps we need to just go to the third item, which is a discussion, so I'll paraphrase, a discussion of, or the proposal to merge the two design boards, or two review boards that are meeting this evening. The Urbana Design Review Board and the Urbana MOR Development Review Board. Do you think it's pertinent to give any kind of history of the two boards?
Sure, we could do that. So the Design Review Board is a relatively new board. I think they were created in 2008, maybe. I don't remember when exactly. They were created to oversee developments within a couple specific areas of the city. There's an area along Lincoln Avenue and Busey Avenue between those two blocks, or between those two streets, from Illinois all the way down to Pennsylvania Avenue is the Lincoln Busey Design Review District. And there's another Design Review District in East Urbana, just next to downtown. So this board is meant to look at developments in those two areas. And the board consists of members, or there are seats for members from those two areas as well on this board. The MOR Development Review Board was created earlier when the city adopted the MOR Mixed Office Residential zoning district, and that's along Green Street and Elm Street from downtown, from Race Street, several blocks to the west towards campus. The purpose of that district is it's an actual zoning district, not just an overlay district. So that district contains, the purpose of the district is to encourage redevelopment of buildings along that area with design guidelines, and mostly to encourage adaptive reuse of buildings so they don't get torn down and replaced with student apartments. I think it would be feasible perhaps to join the two boards, considering we're short on the boards. I think we're short 2 members, so we have room to do it. And it's something we could look into and present at our next meeting.
Okay. Any other discussion on this idea?
Yes.
Yes.
I assume since these boards are creation of council, what we could do is make a recommendation to council, because council would have to make a decision.
Yes, sir. It would it would require an amendment to the zoning ordinance, which created both boards. So it would go to Plan Commission and City Council. Yes, sales.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, has there been much activity in the Moore board for a few years? It seems like I haven't seen much going on
Nope, the last MOR meeting was December 2011.
there. Okay. So they're not being overloaded.
No.
uh,
There have been a couple items that have come up on the Urbana Design Review Board, but they're of the caliber that we basically resolved them via email. I didn't see a need to call the whole board to make the decisions because they were fairly minor issues as far as interpretation of the guidelines. So no, I don't think we've been overly big, and they are built-up areas and relatively stable. So I don't imagine that there's going to be a tremendous amount of activity in regards to that. So I think, is there any more discussion on this? Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to forward this proposal to the Plan Commission at this time? Motion, anybody?
Does the staff need to review the matter first prior to forwarding it? Would that be
Yes.
something that we would have to approve when we approve?
Well, there's a couple ways you could do it. We could have a staff presentation. Staff would work on it and present it back to the Development Review Board and Design Review Board. Or you could just ask staff to take it directly to Plan Commission.
I think we're just, I think what well, at least what the original item was, mentioned was to entertain the idea or to endorse the consideration of it. There may be some reasons that it's not a good idea that we don't know about. I can't imagine any, but one never knows. So, but I guess what you're asking is what the procedure is, whether we need to hear it again, or whether we need to have a report on this matter, or whether it goes directly to the council.
It seems like we're going to have to get back together to approve these amendments
Yeah.
to these documents. So at
So-
that point in time, we can find out if there's any concerns from the staff or
Yeah.
what implications there would be. Plus, we should also talk to the MOR board, the other members of that board, to make sure that they're in agreement too.
Absolutely.
Or maybe we could get some audience participation at this time.
Yeah, I don't have any, but I actually haven't met, I joined the board since this December 2011 meeting, so I've never met with the board, but it sounds like a reasonable proposal, at least something to investigate. I don't know if they've kind of like the same issues in
I serve on both boards, and it wouldn't be onerous, from my perspective, to combine them.
Mhm. Okay. So I guess if we're making a recommendation, do we need to vote on a recommendation to do the report, or is it just, it's more of an internal thing where we're just asking you to
Yes.
to consider it and report back to us at our next meeting when we approve or when we discuss approval of the bylaws?
At this point, I believe it would just be staff direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
And then the next meeting, we'll probably vote on that.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other discussion on that matter? Okay, is there a staff report?
Yes, sir. I guess I should have introduced myself. I'm Jeff Engstrom. I'm the interim manager for the planning division. With me are Christopher Marks and Kevin Garcia, our staff planners. And as always, there's Terry Endell, our secretary. I just wanted to give a quick update on cases that have occurred within the boundaries of the design review districts since our last meeting. There has been one design review board case that has been administratively reviewed, as Mr. Poss said. That was 807 West Indiana Avenue, and that was to repair some brickwork and install new front stairs on the porch on basically a house owned by the Twin City Bible Church. There has been up on 807 to 809 West Illinois Street. We had a plan case, which was also administratively reviewed, to allow installation of 3 new LTE antennas on an existing cell phone tower. It's an apartment building that has a cell tower on it. That was approved. And then we had a couple historic landmark nominations, which Kevin Garcia will fill you in on.
Yes. Greetings, everyone. So since the last meeting, as Jeff just mentioned, there were 2 properties that were designated as local historic landmarks. One of them was the James Elmo Smith House, which is at 801 West Indiana Avenue. And James Elmo Smith was the original owner and builder of the house. He built it in 1920, and he was a 3-term mayor of Urbana. He was also a civil engineer and a property developer within the city. The house is it has an eclectic mix of different architectural styles, Queen Anne, arts and crafts, colonial revival, to name a few. The house is really in excellent condition. The nominators and owners of the house have really taken good care of it and done some good historically appropriate work on the house as well. So on January 2nd, 2013, the Historic Preservation Commission designated that property as a local landmark. The second case is a property at 1207 South Busey Avenue, and that's known as the Reed Sutton House. This property is also owned by the Twin City Bible Church. There's a coincidence there. And it was originally built in 1940 for Frank and Helen Reed, and Frank Reed was a chemist the head chemist at the Illinois Geological Survey. He was also a fellow of the American Association of Science. He then sold the house to Robert and Elizabeth Sutton, and Robert Sutton was a history professor at U of I, director of the Illinois Historic Survey, and the associate dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. The house was designed by a Chicago-based architect named Frank Oldefest, and there really isn't much of his work that is found in central Illinois. And the Historic Preservation Commission thought that was a notable thing about the house, since you don't see his work down here. The house has elements of the English Revival style, but it's clad in Joliet limestone, which I think is a sort of an interesting touch. But it's really well maintained, and that one had to go to council because the property owner objected to the nomination, but the council did designate that property on June 17th, 2013. And that concludes my reports on historic landmarks.
That's
Any
it
other
for
staff?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Study session. I don't think we're going to.
There also was the Zeta Tau Alpha.
True, but that's not within the boundaries of the, of the
right,
design
isn't
review.
it?
That's a block
Yeah.
south.
Yes, but I think that was an important case.
Yeah.
So thank you for mentioning that.
That's right, it is a block south.
Yeah. Maybe we need to consider expanding that. Yeah. Okay, study session. I don't know that we are in need of a study session today. And so that leaves us to number 12, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned.